When we think about modern war, our minds usually jump straight to soldiers and tanks. But what if the real battlefield isn't a field at all? What if it's the global economy? Today, we're looking at conflict not through a rifle scope, but through an accountant's ledger. Because modern wars, at their very core, are economic wars.
Now, that might sound kind of backwards, right? But it points to a really crucial truth. A modern military is this incredibly expensive, complicated machine. And the thing that really fuels it? It isn't gunpowder. It's the economic engine humming away behind the scenes.
And that engine is built from a few key parts. First, a nation's industrial base, its factories and their ability to just churn out whatever is needed. Then you've got the supply chains. Think of them like the veins and arteries of the whole operation, keeping everything moving.
Of course, you need the raw energy to power it all, to keep the lights on and the tanks, well, rolling.
And maybe, most importantly, it's the money, the financial capacity to pay for all of it, day after grueling day.
So, this all leads us to the big question, the one we're really digging into today. In a long, drawn-out conflict between Russia and the entire NATO alliance, which economic model is actually built to last? Who has the real endurance? But to even answer that, we have to totally redefine what victory means here. We're not talking about overwhelming force or market dominance. In a war of attrition, economic victory is much simpler. It's just about survival. It's the ability to keep your society and your government from falling apart under immense pressure. It is a pure contest of endurance.
All right, let's start with NATO. On paper, its economic power looks absolutely unbeatable. The whole alliance is basically structured like this finely tuned, hyper-efficient global machine, a true economic heavyweight.
And you can see that structure broken down right here. In the strengths column, it's obvious. A gigantic combined GDP, incredibly deep capital markets, and a massive technological edge. But look at the weaknesses column. Sky-high government debt, a ton of political fragmentation, and a serious dependence on foreign energy.
So here's the takeaway. NATO's economy is an absolute powerhouse in peacetime, when everything's running smoothly. But that very efficiency, that interconnectedness, is also a huge vulnerability. It's rich for sure, but it can be slow to react, and getting all those different countries to agree on painful long-term sacrifices, that's a huge political challenge.
Now, let's flip the coin and look at Russia. It is a completely different story. If NATO is an efficiency machine, Russia's economy is more like an endurance fortress. It's not designed for explosive growth, it's designed for resilience, to withstand a siege. And again, you can see the trade-offs really clearly. The strengths are tailor-made for a wartime situation. It's energy independent, it's got vast raw materials, and decision-making is completely centralized. But the weaknesses are just as stark. We're talking a much smaller GDP, very limited high-tech manufacturing, and it's super reliant on selling its commodities to other countries. So, to put it simply, Russia's system is built to take a punch. It can absorb shocks and tolerate economic pain in a way that would be really, really tough for Western democracies. The flip side, though, is that it's not very dynamic. It can't innovate or scale up complex production with anything like the speed of the West. So, what happens when you pit these two fundamentally different systems against each other? Well, it doesn't turn into a race to the top. It becomes a brutal race to the bottom. This right here is the heart of the conflict. Russia's endurance-based system is designed to just tolerate pain and chaos. NATO's efficiency-based system is built for peak performance in a stable world, but it can shatter under severe, long-term disruption. You could say one is built to bend while the other is brittle. And in a long, grinding economic war, that pain gets felt everywhere. Let's be clear, nobody really wins. Both populations would face soaring inflation, crushing national debt, a very real drop in their standard of living, and you'd see capital fleeing to anywhere that looks safe. It is a lose-lose scenario for the average person. The sober reality of a situation like this is that the only ones who really come out ahead are the people who build the weapons and the people who sell the energy. They're the ones who profit from all the pain. So, if it's a race to the bottom, what does the finish line even look like? How does it all end? This really gets to the most important insight about modern economic war. Just let that sink in for a second. It completely reframes everything. It's not about who has the biggest GDP or the fanciest tech anymore. It's a grim, ugly race of attrition.
and the winner is just the last one left standing.
But what actually causes that final collapse? Here's the kicker. It's almost never because the Treasury literally runs out of money. The breaking point comes when the population runs out of patience. Collapse is triggered by social and political unrest long before the last dollar is spent. It's a failure of will, not a failure of finance.
At the end of the day, our interconnected, debt-fueled, globalized economies are amazing things. They're marvels of peacetime efficiency, but they are not war machines. None of them are. In a long-term economic conflict, every single system will eventually fail. The only real question is, how loudly?